They say new year, new me. However, this is very much a new year, old me type of situation. We're gonna be talking about Darksiders. Specifically Darksiders 1 the War Mastered Edition on Steam, as I have been wanting to play through the Darksiders franchise for quite a while. So I thought, why not do the exact same thing we did with the FromSoft Soul franchise and just play through all of them. And that is what we're gonna start doing today. So I hope you'll enjoy this mini review, retrospective, whatever you wanna call it, of Darksiders, because I quite enjoyed this game, way more than I thought I would. Despite its age, it has held up fairly well. So what is Darksiders? Well, Darksiders is a game where you play as the 7 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. In the first one you will be playing as War. War is, in essence, personified as being a big, strong character. Just a massive fucking guy, a hunk of bread if you will. And he plays like that. He uses a great sword with the ease of which I swing a stick. He punches things harder than I could, and he beats the meat of the enemies harder than I beat my meat. He is in essence incredibly strong, and he plays like it, and his moves like it, and that's one of the things I like. I like the fact that when you're moving him, it feels like you're moving a strong character. He has that oomph to him, kind of like Titus did in Space Marine 2. It feels like you are walking with a refrigerator. Like, this guy is massive, and it is shown everywhere. And because Darksiders is a pretty cool game, it starts out with you losing your abilities right after you've had a taste for them. And throughout the game you'll get more and more abilities unlocked until you are even stronger than you were at the beginning of the game. These, as an example, include you being able to fly. Yep, this massive hunk of bread can just spawn Dark Angel wings and casually fly around. Because that isn't like the coolest thing ever? Now, of course, that is not all that it's about. But in essence, Darksiders is a bit of a Metroidvania. You'll progress to different areas, unlock new abilities, then you are able to go back to the old areas to unlock either new areas or new items. So you can explore around, and certain times your upgrades will be able to unlock other things that you couldn't get otherwise, and it's all a loop, and it's fun. I really genuinely enjoy this. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of games tend to do nowadays, but I still think it's really underappreciated when it's done really well. And Darksiders does it really well, like incredibly well at that. You are able to fast travel back and forth at a merchant called Volkagrim, and when you are at him, you can sort of use a wormhole to just teleport you from one area of the map to another. The combat isn't as tactical as something like Dark Souls would have been, but it is definitely fast-paced hack and slash fun. You have your dodges and all of that, and honestly it is a power fantasy all throughout. While the game can be challenging, do not get me wrong, it wasn't like I was sitting here on the edge of my seat being scared that I'd die all the time. However, I did quite enjoy the combat, like a lot. I think the combos were fun. Using Chaos Eater was fun, honestly so fun that I kind of forgot I had other weapons. And while that might be a shame, I think that is a testament to how good Chaos Eater, your sword, feels. Because I do not want to be misunderstood, your other weapons feel really good too. You get a pair of gloves that you'll use to break ice glaciers, but you can also use them as a weapon to punch enemies. You also get a throwing spinny blade thing, like a vortex blade that you can just throw out there and it get enemies stuck. It can also like sort of stun them for a little bit. It's really fun. It's also used for quite a lot of the puzzle solving, which is something that we will talk about, trust me. I love that as well. I also love the scythe that has more of an AoE and a focus on bigger group fights, and yet I found all of them just being out-purposed by Chaos Eater. Simply because Chaos Eater is just a lot of fun to use. It is an absolute power fantasy. Being able to have a giant blade and swing it around like it's nothing, throwing enemies up into the air and then slamming them down, dodging directly into an attack with it, it's a lot of fun. I really love the combat with Chaos Eater. And you also have abilities. Outside of your ultimate, which is turning yourself into a giant demon, you also have the ability to summon spears, turn into stone, and plenty of other things. Now, I will personally say I never really used them a whole lot. I used the one with the blades that come out of the ground, the very first one you unlock, where you slam your sword into the ground and that spawns like this AoE effect around you that does massive damage that I use both for boss fights but also for group clearing. But let's be honest, I mainly used it for boss fights just to whittle down the health of enemies faster. It's a really good utility skill, and I tended to just do that and then play with Chaos Eater and at times also use the throwing blade and of course also the demon form. Now they are not the only weapons you have. You see, you also get a gun. Now the gun can feel a little bit weak in my opinion, and that is because you essentially have infinite ammo. So it is just see an enemy, hold it down until they're dead, or don't. It's really up to you, because at the end of the day you don't really have to do that. You can also kill most enemies just using Chaos Eater or the throwing blade, which is what I prefer to do. One thing Darksiders does also well as well is the fact that every time you get a new item, it can be a grappling hook as an example in the late game. You can use it both for traversal like you're meant to, but also use it in combat. It can be used to grab items and get them close to you, but also grab enemies, and certain enemies will require you to use it to rip the armor apart. These tools are like very multi-purpose, and I really enjoy that fact. The fact of the matter is you can use almost every single tool you get in multiple different scenarios. And I think that adds for a really fun game, as it sort of incentivizes you to try new things and always experiment. And there's always given a new option, as the game is fairly short. So you get all of these upgrades within a fairly short time. So you get to go from one ability to the next, to the next, to the next, always getting a new way to spice up your own gameplay. It's a really fun system that is really, really well made here. Another thing I really fucking love about Darksiders is the overall story. It's dark and edgy and covers the fall of heaven and how the balance of the universe was broken when some people tried to grab power in heaven, and as such started a war with hell, which kind of ended Earth. And it sort of sets up a sequel by the end. I'm not going to spoil it in case you haven't played the game, because I think it's one of my main motivators for going through was the story. It was really, really good. And I'll be honest, War is a really cool character. I enjoy the way he is written. I enjoy the way he's shown off throughout the game. He always keeps that strongman persona that I think suits him very well. I will say though, with all of that being said, you do get the side companion that's supposed to sort of keep you in leash for the council. It makes sense from a story perspective, as you are accused of going there by yourself, which is against the law in like heaven and all of that, like the universe's laws. It's against you, a horseman, to just go to Earth and meddle in affairs unless the 7 seals are broken, which they weren't believed to be, but you thought they were. It turns out that they were, but that's all part of the bigger plot of the game. And you are as such given a companion to keep you in check. And that guy is so fucking annoying. For the beginning parts of the game, he acted as being comedy relief. And for the rest of it, he was just a bit of a downer. He was a bit of a dick. Luckily, he is also considered a bad guy, and he gets a very fitting ending that, in my opinion, satisfied my little evil heart a lot. I like the fact that we didn't get to do more there. It was satisfying, and I think it was really well played off. And I think that is really the overall vibe of Darksiders, especially in terms of the story. Yes, you might be annoyed with a character, but they will get what's coming to them. It's not going to be one of those where it's held off on the violence. And violence is something that this game has a lot of. We are talking from gory finishers to ripping the spine off of the enemies to any other way of killing a demon you can think of. You probably do it in Darksiders. And honestly, it's all serving a purpose, as killing demons not just gives you your currency, in this case souls, it also fills your wrath meter, which is sort of your mana. However, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. There are 2 parts of Darksiders I kinda don't enjoy at all. One has to do with the way that the areas are structured, specifically in that whenever you solve a puzzle or you enter a combat scenario, the game feels the incessant need to pan to it with your camera to show it to you in a cutscene form. I really hate this. It was really normal at the time, but it just serves to cut up gameplay sections and slow you down quite a lot. I'm not a fan. I really dislike that. Secondly, I think a lot of the earlier puzzles up until almost the last area for me are more or less just annoying. They aren't puzzles in the sense that I am thinking about what I'm doing. I can solve them fairly easily. They just take time to do. And as such, I wonder if they're really necessary to have here. They don't add anything at all. And the same thing can really be said with the hand cannon or the gun. I love the gun. However, you can't use it to solve any of the throwing puzzles where you have to like throw your blade at things. You can use your gun instead. Meaning that there's quite a few scenarios where the gun is completely useless and it's just there for combat exclusively. Which there's nothing wrong with, but when you need to constantly swap between them, I end up being lazy and just keeping one on at a time instead. That is because I am personally lazy, but I cannot be fucked to swap. That is as simple as that. I haven't really experienced anything else I consider really bad about the game. I will say though, if you were like me and are planning to play this game with a PlayStation 5 controller, even through the Steam input, there are just things that I couldn't get to work. It was janky as shit trying to enable it in game, and I ended up giving up and playing it with mouse and keyboard where I played perfectly fine. But things like swimming, I couldn't dive in the game, which is where you'll find a lot of secrets, both items that can upgrade your health, Metroidvania style, but also items that you will sell to Wolvergrim the merchant, and all of that. And I found that to be quite annoying. I couldn't be playing this with my controller like I wanted to, so I ended up just playing it with mouse and keyboard. And while it worked, I would have still preferred to be able to pick up the old sticks instead. Now, all of that being said, Darksiders has held up really well. Visually, the game is fucking stunning. Outside of the areas you're in, I love the fact that this has more of an art style. It's a little bit cartoony without being really Fortnite-ish cartoony. It has that nice vibe that I think games like World of Warcraft also strike. Like the perfect balance between cartoony and not cartoony. To the point where it just looks really, really good. And I think the entire world can be described like that. I think it has a really unique setting in that it takes place in an urbanized environment after like the legions of hell have taken over. It's an interesting idea, yet it leads to a lot of brown and grey colors, which is not where the game really shines in my opinion. When the game is at its best, in my own opinion, it's when you are in the more luscious, colorful environments. I really like those. Areas like where you meet the Black Hammer, they're beautiful. I love being there. I also love the cathedral when we go for the a little bit extra gothic themes. However, it's not something that the game does very often, unfortunately, which in my opinion is a huge missed opportunity. Now, I haven't played Darksiders 2, but from the screenshots I've seen, it does look like it does more of that fantasy vibe overall. But I do think the environment is unique enough and the visuals are pretty good, and they do look beautiful. Like, even to this day, more than 10 years in the future, it's still a really pretty game. The only other thing I really have to complain about is the audio mixing being a little fucked in some cutscenes. Like, certain things can just be a little louder than they probably should be allowed to be. And with all that being said, I don't have much more on Darksiders, as I would normally cover the themes and stuff like that, but I don't really think there are any major themes other than being cool. Darksiders is a power fantasy type of game, and I think it would defeat the purpose in trying to be hashtag deep with this one, because quite frankly, Darksiders isn't the hashtag deep game. It is more of a have a power fantasy, rip the wings off a giant bad demon. That is what Darksiders is, and it is what it excels at being. I love it, and I think it does it really well. I am gonna cover the other Darksiders games, that being 2, 3, and Genesis. I'd like to do it before Darksiders 4 comes out. However, I would like to do it slightly different for how I did when I covered the FromSoft Soul franchise, and instead of covering every game almost back to back to back, I'd like that to be a little bit of pause in between. So like, it would be every other video I do on a game, there would be a Darksiders video from henceforward until we're done with the franchise, as there are only 3 games left, and I'm looking forward to playing them because each of them looks to offer something unique. They are all looking pretty fun, at least in my own opinion, and I'm looking forward to playing them quite a lot because of that. Also, I just want to progress the story. I mean, shit, man. The ending is a cliffhanger. How can I not want to progress it more? And quite frankly, that is all. If you enjoyed the video, please do all the YouTube stuff. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You know how YouTube works by this point. It really genuinely does help the channel, and I appreciate you quite a lot for doing so. With all that being said, I'm just happy that you're here. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for joining in the covering of this game, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.